Sergio Mora versus Danny Jacobs. It's an interesting fight and it involves two guys who I quite like. Sergio Mora, he's not a fan-friendly fighter, he's not got explosive power, he's very sort of awkward, technical fighter if you like, who probably isn't beloved by the hardcore fans. I've followed him back since the Contender days. I've got that kind of allegiance to him from when I started watching boxing, many years ago, probably over 10 years ago now, I'd guess. Either way, he's a guy I like despite his style. Danny Jacobs is an interesting guy. You know, he's someone I find quite good to watch. He throws nice combinations of punches, and he looks like he's got a bit of a snap to his work. You know, he throws fast hands. They look like they're heavy hands. He puts punches together fairly well. And there's another one who I quite like. Danny Jacobs, there's some concerns about him at the very top level of the game. What's his defence like? What's his chin like? Is he too focused on getting the knockout? Does he not sort of work his way in enough? You know, there's all of these suggestions about him. And I will go on record as saying I think a peak Sergio Mora would possibly be able to beat Danny Jacobs. A peak Sergio Mora who was slick, awkward, and really a horrible individual fight could possibly frustrate and get the better of Danny Jacobs, in my opinion. The difficulty is that a peak Sergio Mora hasn't been in existence for several years, and I thought last time out he looked terrible, and potentially he started to look like some of his punch resistance and durability was starting to decrease. Danny Jacobs, he's coming off a decent win over Caleb Truex, a win which I thought he kind of forced the knockout a bit too much. Kind of went looking for it a bit early rather than just keeping his powder dry for a few rounds. And you don't want to make that same mistake against an experienced vet like Sergio Mora. However, I do think that the younger, athletic Danny Jacobs, who punches hard and punches fast, is possibly going to have enough for Sergio Mora at this stage of his career. And I think as Sergio's got a bit older, as his reflexes started to have dipped a bit, maybe his punch resistance has started to dip, my prediction would be a Danny Jacobs knockout win in the sort of middle to late rounds. That would be my suggestion here. There is one slight caveat to that. Sergio Mora did look very poor last time out, but I guess we can rule in the fact that he was scheduled to face Jermaine Taylor for a shot at the world middleweight title. That fight then got cancelled because Jermaine Taylor got arrested for doing something ridiculous. And, as a result, Sergio Mora fought a sort of late notice, lower level opponent. So, arguably that's worse because he looked poor against a lower level opponent. Arguably it's excusable because maybe he was very undermotivated, didn't train particularly hard, being under the impression he was in for a world title fight, and then towards the end realising he was facing a lower level of opposition. So it could go either way. Realistically, I think Danny Jacobs is a solid enough operator. I think he's on his way up through the middleweight division. I think he is certainly a top 10 middleweight, and I don't think Sergio Mora is anymore. I think he's slipping, and I think weaknesses and flaws in his game will be exposed by Danny Jacobs. I'm picking Jacobs by stoppage. I don't think Mora's got enough left to pull this one out of the bag. Let me know your thoughts. Many thanks for watching.